All right, this is my new project Jeep here. Got some fancy wheels and tires, whatever, TSI or something like that. Got some nitro gears to go in there. It's funny, this stuff is for that's for a JK, and then what is one of these, that's for a TJ. But it's supposed to still fit these same axles. But this is what's so funny is over here where I work, I'm putting gears in for my job. And that's how you can tell I enjoy what I do, is I'm doing the same thing I get paid for, and I'm doing it for free for myself. But I'll show you back over there. You can tell all these shims. I think a kid over there might come with about 5. And I actually, some customers will like low mile stuff, they just want to change gears. I won't charge them for like a full kit. I'll just use a couple of my shims or whatever. And yeah, like right here, this whole kit come with that many shims and a few of those, but you can see. But I've done quite a few sets, so I'm gonna go through and try to show you just some tricks that I've learned. It's not gonna be the most detailed video you've ever seen, so if you've never done gears before and you want to know every single detail, this probably ain't the video. But I just want to help people that's even done a bunch of gears. You know, maybe I can help them out just a little bit better. So let's get it apart and go from there. So anytime you can't get the housing out, find like an old axle shaft, or I don't even know what this stuff is. But right here, I know it's going to damage it. You can grind it off later. Just right there, kind of use that as a hammer, and then it'll fall out right there. All right, so I got everything took apart. Just a quick walk around this Jeep. It's going to be a pretty cool build. Everything's painted to match. That's actually the color of the Jeep. Clear coated. The axles, I don't even know what color they are, but just a kind of a gray color. Calipers painted to match, they're clear coated. UTV RCV boots. Trying to think. Rough Country long arm, and I don't tell them I put spacers on there. Let's see, the motor is rebuilt. I know it don't look like it, but it is. And the, what is it, 242 HD case. So it's got 2-wheel drive. Same thing back here, the springs. They're paint to match, clear coated. Made all new brake lines, all new ABS wires, all new brake hoses. So yeah, I still hadn't even drove this Jeep, and it's got all this work done to it, and so I hope I like it. I think I showed y'all got some new wheels for it too. All the lights new. Anyway, I'll get on the gears and show y'all some tricks. All right, so first things first, we gotta get this oil slinger off. And I know they make special tools, but this is a bearing separator, and I kind of learned this on my own, and I'm sure it's not the right way, but I use it anyway. Put it on there and then throw the race on, and I've got these little metal tabs to actually bolt it down to keep pressure on there. And I don't know if you can see, but it won't fully reach, so I'll get an old shim or just something to take the slack up, and then I'll tighten it down. I don't get them very tight. Now we'll put it in the press. So luckily this is a 373 and it'll fit between here. Sometimes I have to do some rigging stuff, but I set it up, and just for the heck of it, I always put a softer piece of metal between them. Try to keep from hurting the threads, even though I'm gonna throw these gears away. So you just loosen all that up and take that apart. Then there's what we was after right there. The biggest giveaway that I never knew, because when I started as a kid, I was just eager just to throw something together, is they call it OEM shim depth. And going through here, for some reason they don't have Dana 35, and I think I figured out about 30 to 40 thousandths. And one thing I just read on the internet is this oil slinger. I didn't know if that accounted for, you know, how far it gets close to the ring gear, center line, whatever they call it. So I'm gonna learn by the end of the video if this is right, because this is one for a TJ I'm doing. It's, I don't know, we'll call it about 30 thousandths. and the one I just pulled out of my Jeep is 60 thousandths. So if you read, they say on the internet they make different ones for whatever they need. That, you know, Dana, Spicer, but somewhere along there mine calls for 65 thousandths. Well, that's 60, so we're just gonna put it on there and see if that works out for mine. I'm not sure exactly what the brown sticky stuff is, but I always try to get it off there for tolerances. And then, of course, you just put lots of grease on there. So next, you just slide your slinger on there, then put it in there. And it's always nice to keep like a spacer or something just to keep up the slack. And just press it on there. Always just spin it, and then you can feel it'll go, and then it'll be bottomed out. Always just give it a tap. So one of the things I just learned myself a few years ago, and whoever did this must have been a Friday rear end. You can see an S right there sideways. And you can, let's see, where did it go? You can see reminiscences of something they've tried to stamp there. Same thing, that's an upside down S right there, and you can barely see where they tried. I don't know who was working that day, they did a terrible job. So I'll show you the rear end, it's a little bit better. You can see I've already painted this one, but that's an A sideways right there. That's the sideways A, and that one is upside down. And you can see upside down A right there. So makes it easier. You won't get the caps mixed up. You can just throw them down and slap them back up there. And I've actually seen some people where they've rebuilt them and they're wrong. So just keep up with that. So this is one of my favorite tricks here. Is normally you'd run shims, but we're trying this one without them. Is the bearing race and all that. Put way too much grease. I mean, smear it around, common sense there. But take it, let's see. Put like a wad of it right there. And then put one or two spots, just put way too much grease. And I'll show you here in just a minute, even on the other side, the outer bearing, because one time I thought I had it hammered all the way in, and when the customer got it home, it was fine, but he ended up locking it full drive, and that put pressure on the bearing, and it went ahead and seated the race in just a little bit farther. So big mistake, and I try to find a better way to do it, and you'll see here in a second. But hopefully by the time y'all are watching this, my brother's got a lathe and I'll make tools, but I'm still using a chisel. So see if we can see this. I've got like a big heavy bar. I think I've already showed you. That just gets them started, and then I'll get a hammer and a chisel. Just keep walking it around. Alright, so when you're finally getting close down there, you see the grease start oozing out. I hope my hand's not in the way. Ain't there yet. Still squeezing out. Still squeezing out. And you'll see it'll actually shoot out when it gets right there at the bottom. Of course, you can hear a dead thud sound too, but then you can just rub that grease on there to help for that. So the next thing is the crush sleeve. They actually sent me the wrong one. I had this in for my job over there. But if you didn't have the crush sleeve, when you put the yoke on and tighten it, you could finesse it and get it to, you know, keep tension between the bearings. But auto manufacturers figured out they can use a crush sleeve instead of a high pinion. We'll get on that another day. But that way, the bearing is going to end up somewhere down here. And if you look, it's not there yet. So what will happen is you'll put that on there and start tightening, and you'll have slack, and eventually it's just going to start crushing this down in the bulge there, and that way it keeps tension between them, and you can actually get the nut tight enough to hold everything together. I just showed you the crush sleeve. That's the last thing you do. All we're worried about right now is, I guess, the shim depth. And if you'll look here, I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about, but we're not worried about the crush sleeve yet, because that'll change when we change that. So we'll get the gear mesh set up perfectly, and then we'll work on that. So I've got the pinion in. It don't have no crush sleeve. It's laying on the table. Transmission jack's my little stand today. Let's see if I can set you up. Yeah. So the pinion in there and got the bearing on, and we'll tighten it down. So, well, that's actually perfect. But get it to where it's just got a little bit of resistance. If you don't, back it off. And then you can just kind of tap it with a hammer. But just enough rolling resistance, it won't just spin freely. Alright, so I got the ring gear off. I was going to show you this little trick. Like I said, I'm not making a basic video because I'm sure, you know, foil parts. Somebody's got to make a better know-how video. But if it's requested, I'll do it. Where'd it go? To get this bearing off, you see I've already tightened all this stuff up. Everything's ready. But now, this is took me forever. I actually had this axle. It's a chrome moly axle, but you can see how strong it was for what we do. But that way you can stick it off in there, and now I've got my 2-jaw puller. And I'm sure I've found sockets. There's no telling what I've tried, but this really works the best here. It'll scare you. You'll think it ain't gonna go, and then all of a sudden it'll pop and do it. But that's it. Press a new bearing on. Make sure if you don't know what carrier brake is, look that up. I guess you can tell. To get a lower gear, you gotta have a smaller gear here. So the big gear, the offset difference, that's why there's carrier brake. I think JK finally got away from that. But just make sure you know what that is before you start. I'm sure every forum and everything you read on the internet will tell you need a press for these bearings. The Pinion, it's very tricky, so I would probably try to use a press on it. But you can just sit here and just tap back and forth with a good sturdy table. Just keep walking around. And you can eventually get it all the way down there, but since I got a press sitting right there, I'm gonna do it that way. Alright, so on the front, especially for some reason, I use red Loctite. People say use blue, I don't care, but I put just a dab there, and sometimes I'll even do that, and then if it's like an off-road application where you really want it to stay, I'll put it right here and then smear it around, because Loctite, when it dries, it actually expands. That's how it keeps everything from moving. So that way when you bolt it all together, it actually pulls it a little tighter. Just something I do. Forgot I was showing my little tricks. Put 2 bolts off in there and keep it face down like that, and you can kind of finesse it around. And, well, forget you watch down through the holes. Yep. Now you got it hang there. You can put all your other bolts and then run them down. I'm sure there's fancy torque specs. All I've ever used is Ugga-Dugs. Just like a tire wheel, crisscross it. It's always my favorite part. So this is my other trick I was going to show you. Jeep finally figured out. Used to, they had to put little bitty thin shims behind the carrier bearings for the Backlash, whatever you want to call it. And some of the aftermarket kits come with like builder packs. They'll come with a couple thick ones and you put thin ones in between them. So what I'll do, well, that's what I was getting at. Now they just make all of them in different sizes, and you can see I've got one in every color, shape, size. So what I'll do is, the ones that use these, is I'll take the thin ones and put them on the outside of the bearing and get my backlash where I think is about right. And what I'll do is I'll pull them out and measure it. Let's just say it's 35 thousandths. I'll take these and bump it up to 40 thousandths, usually about 5 thousandths. And sometimes if it's off-road, you can even go to, I don't know, 7-10 thousandths per side. And that way you actually got to hammer it in the case, because that's what they say. You want the case to sit with no bolts, not just fall out, and that gets the good tension on it. So luckily mine has the new style that has just 2 predetermined shims, I guess you call it. And what I'll do is, I know this is my magic number, 247. So whether I have to change to a thicker or thinner, I know I need to add whatever I subtracted on the other side or vice versa. So if you use these builder kits that has 4 thick ones and a bunch of thin ones, you'll put the thin ones in between the thick ones. And like I said, even if you offset it over and not even worry about the ring gear backlash, that way you just know exactly what you need, and you can swap the thin ones over, and it'll be the right amount of shims. So I'm going to show you this part. This is all just trial and error kind of stuff. So like I said, these measure out 247 together. Put the, let's see, what's the thickest? 125. Just this one's just barely. Put it on this side to get the ring gear away from the pinion, just for you to, easy to get started on. Well, I said earlier mine was a Monday housing. I'm pretty sure it is because of all the shims I've got. I can't seem to find any that's thin enough. But if I can get these started, I'll just tap them off in there and try something. Yeah. Luckily with these thick shims, you can just tap them off in there. Well, it ain't falling out. Alright, so I know we're not ready for Backlash, but I had it set up and everything was perfect. So what you do, this is the tool they want you to use. I'm going to turn my light away so you can see the needle. The gap between the way it rolls back and forth, 6 to 10 thousandths of what they want. And I'll show you. I went and found a business card. My business card. It's like I said, looking for 6 to 10, and it's about 15 thousandths. And this is a Arby's something, I don't even know. But it's 10,000. So I don't even use this fancy tool anymore. I just reach up and tick, 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 and if it feels right. All that is so when everything gets hot, there's enough clearance for oil and nothing's just grinding on each other. So not saying it's not important, but it's probably not as strategic as you would think. Alright, so this is the part that used to confuse the heck out of me, and I hope I can explain this to where it makes sense and it's a lot easier than what the book shows you. But dab this stuff all over 2 gears just so you got a good reference. But one of the little tricks I like, when you get done, instead of swipe marks that way, rub them, you know, not parallel with the gear contact, that way you can see it. And then you roll it around. Let's see, go this way. As soon as it gets right there to the gear, I always put my hand right here so there's plenty of resistance to smear it around there. And then come back again. And let's see. That's perfect. So, I don't know how good you can see in the video. I used to stress this so much because I'd look at the book and get so confused because they have all these patterns. And it's nothing but confusion. You know, how that's acceptable, I have no idea. But when I finally went over to this page, basically what it comes down to, if the straight lines are at the bottom of the gear, it's too close. You move the pinion away from the center line. And if the straight lines are on the top sides, like right there, the pinion's too far away, so move it closer to the ring gear. So you can see right there, as long as you got straight lines or ovals on both sides, that's all you're going for. Like I said, that used to stress me out because I'd look at those weird patterns. As long as you've got just a good smooth pattern on both sides, they're not straight lines to push the oil off. That's yeah. All right, so this same two-jaw puller I've been using the whole video. It works for a pinion puller too. Some of them come off there easier than others. I'll never understand that. Yeah. All right, so one thing I do, I call it a hammer nut. It's the same nut that I've been hammering on for all these jobs. But screw it on there as far as you need to. And then you can take this. As long as the nut's on there, it won't go flying out in your drive or whatever you're doing it in. You can see it stops right there. Alright, so I lied earlier. I said Nitro only sent me this one, but they did. They sent me the right one. I don't know. I just missed it. But gonna stick it in there and show you. It's rough on your wrist or any tool you need to get it to collapse down. So I may actually put it in there and then go ahead and put the carrier and the ring gear and all that. Just when I get there, you'll see what I'm talking about. All right, so got the crush sleeve on there. Everything's shimmed up. Stick it through. Get it to there. And then stick the bearing on. It's not gonna go. And then we'll put the yoke as far as you can get it. And then, yeah, here's a nut. So put the nut on there. Now this part I'll probably have to edit out. It takes forever. All right, so it's obviously flopping around. Watch, it'll run down till the crush sleeve touches, and I'll... All right, so the crush sleeve finally made contact, but that ain't gonna fly. So this is the part I may have to get you actually gotta crush it down to it's, you know, where it wants to be at. Yep, I'm gonna have to get the big gun out. All right, so I got the big gun out. And I put the ring gear and the carrier and all that stuff back in. I ain't slid the axles in, but you can see we're still fighting slack. Grab it with a rag. All right, so I went back with a used crush sleeve. Hopefully it's closer than the new crush sleeve was. And you can use them. If they start crushing and you get resistance and you have to keep going, that's fine to use. Be sure and don't forget this thing. I'll be honest, I really don't know what it does. I guess it keeps oil from splashing towards the seal, but just don't forget it. Alright, so be sure and thread lock the low pinion. The high pinion is not as crucial since you can get it as tight as you want. Still put it on there, it's just not as crucial. Pop that on there. Well, I'm gonna take it off and clip the video. Put grease on it. Put grease right there on that surface. Alright, so I got grease on there. Not saying that's mandatory, but just something I like doing. New washer, new nut. Alright, so I'm back on the small gun, so I can kind of finesse this. So, on new stuff, I'm sure there's a certain perfect formula, but this is just what I do. Get it down there where it's got a little bit of resistance to turn, you know, it won't spin freely. And when it breaks in, oil, everything gets situated, it'll be right on point. Alright, so finally got everything set up. Just go back and make sure the gear mesh ain't changed, nothing shifted on you. So, anyways, I guess that's it for this video. Like I said, I can be more specific. You want to see more specific videos, just, you know, comment whatever you want to see. I don't care if it's spray painting a floor mat, airing up a tire. Spray painting a floor mat's pretty cool, by the way, so I had to show y'all that. But here it is, going on 8:30. Still got to do the rear end, finish the front, edit videos. But like I said, everything you see is hands-on, what I've learned. Not saying it's right, not saying it's wrong, but it obviously does work. So anyway, thank y'all for watching. You know, the videos are for y'all, so just do what you can to support. Thanks.